Go for it. Hello, everybody. Give me 1 second to get everything up and running as usual, please. There we go. Music check. On time. Look at you, Josh. Right from the beginning. I think you might have beat me here. Does the music sound okay with my voice? I was listening to the recording of last week. It sounded a little bit loud. But as long as you can hear what I'm saying, I guess it's good enough. Yeah, it sounds alright to me. On time for pre-roll ads. No, there aren't supposed to be ads. I'm sorry for the ads. Anything you see that is a Twitch thing, not a cheese doodle thing. How long are these ads? All right. Well, hopefully that's resolved soon. Like a minute? Jeez, that's obnoxious. All right. Are you guys here now? I guess I can do my intro while you're all watching the ads, because that doesn't show up on the recording. So, hello everyone. Welcome back to another week of Future Group Friday. My name is Cheese Doodle, if you haven't figured that out yet. I am one of the members of the TagPro Future Group steering committee and development team, basically the group of people responsible for coming up with the next steps for TagPro, what it's going to look like, and then building and announcing those features as we get them done. So this stream is it's been going for a few months now. The goal is basically just to keep everyone updated on the progress that we are making, mostly with development stuff, talking about the branches that we're working on before we get to actually release them, and then some of the other peripheral considerations that we talk about behind the scenes, as well as feature requests, which you can see in front of me right now. And then we finish up usually with a feature building session. And I do have a fun one this week. I think we're going to enjoy this one, so I'm not going to spoil it just yet. But if you don't know what TagPro is, for the few of you who stumble across this on YouTube, TagPro is a free-to-play browser game. You can find it online at tagpro.gg. It is live games right in your browser, 4v4, short games of about 6 minutes, no account required. Hop in whenever. So, hello, Approx Infinity. Welcome. So, as I mentioned last week on stream, we have lost the canny board, unfortunately. So, the feedback session is going to go through the actual feedback tab. The board itself still exists in terms of this page here. You can still post stuff to it, but I cannot update these tags on any of the posts anymore. So we'll get to that in a minute, but let's start as usual with our development updates. So as I have been mentioning for the last few weeks, we are closing in on a release. I did promise a testing session this week. That testing session is going to be tonight. So I will be announcing that after the stream, the exact start time, and hopefully we can get a good chunk of those features cleaned up. We have I think 3 more branches that need to be reviewed and merged in, and then we are good to go for the release. So still tentatively hoping for next week. It might end up getting pushed back 1 more week based on how much stuff has to get changed from the testing session, but we are well on our way to getting things out the door. So a week from today puts us back at the 30th of January. So let's talk through what's happened since then behind the scenes. All right. I already talked about those because they came in at 4 a.m. There we go. Okay. Number 1, back and forth, talking about the tier expansion again. I've already mentioned that a few times, so I'm not going to go into detail, but just this tier is expanding thing is getting cleaned up a little bit so that it actually happens when we announce that. Then we've got the random flare fix is merged in. So if you look up somebody who has random flare selected, you can see no flare shows up, even though I have random selected on my flares. So now it will show you a random flare that they have selected. We got rid of the view console logging, which I've mentioned before. This over here, you are running view in development mode. That's going to go away, so you don't see that anymore, which is awesome. And also the bug right there at the same time is going away. Those got merged in and done. Then we've got a fix that a bug came up from a different fix. So I've talked about the profile being separated into 3 tabs. You're going to have your actual information, then your flares, and then your settings in 3 separate tabs in the profile. That change did introduce a bug along the way that just messed up the random flare selector. So we've fixed that so that it will work as expected. We merged in the branch I talked about last week in private groups, where instead of picking random maps, you can now pick random, or you can pick random capture the flag or random neutral flag. So you don't have to have a mix of map types if you don't want to. Then we've got another fix that I talked about already, which was the backfilling games for the ranked game history, which is only going to be relevant in the next release because we're adding that profile chart where it's going to show you how your skill score has gone up and down during the season. We found that we weren't saving all the entries accidentally, so we went back and backfilled those entries. So they are saved forever now, which is good. Casual probability standards. So this is one I want to spend a little bit of time on. There was a post on Reddit. If you didn't see it, I'm going to pull it up in front of me. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but if you wanted to take a look, I'll put that in the chat. This was somebody asking, what is the balancing doing for casual games? And so as I mentioned in my response here, we had just had a very similar conversation internally, and I did touch on this briefly on stream last week, but I want to go into a little more detail now. So at the start of casual games, if you're not familiar with casual, we take all the players who are in the lobby during the pregame countdown, and when the clock hits 6 seconds, it will start to zoom in on your ball. But at that same time, we also check the game that's about to happen and make sure that the teams are fair. And when I say fair, currently on production, that means that the game is a 40 to 60% probability for either team to win. If that is not the case, it will take those players and it will make a new match with those same 8 and make the teams as balanced as it can, still within that 40 to 60. If it can't do that, it'll still let the game happen, but it will make it as even as possible. So maybe the best match is a 39% chance. It'll make that game over like a 10% chance game to happen. But bottom line there is that we balance the teams pretty frequently because more often than not, the random teams selected at the beginning don't fall within that 40 to 60% consideration. So the complaints that we've gotten from that are somewhat twofold. The first one is the obvious one. Players don't love being flipped around all the time. They like to join the game, see where they're going to spawn, see who their teammates are going to be, and then play. They don't like joining a game kind of existing in the game, but knowing that they're going to get moved around and the teams are going to change. It kind of takes you out of the game a little bit, and it makes it less enjoyable, I guess, is the complaint. This isn't a thing I personally have a strong stake in, but we have heard this multiple times from multiple players, so we're trying to respond accordingly. But the flip-flopping of teams was kind of the core of the problem, but there was a secondary concern, which was looking at the experience for players who are somewhat experienced. So I'm going to back up for a second and talk about why we balance matches. And I summarized it right here. We wanted to reduce blowouts, where those games where the game starts, the game is over 20 seconds later because one team had all the good players, one team had all the new players. They just roll over them and it's over. Neither side of that matchup is really having fun. So the first goal was to remove those, and the second goal was to make those games winnable for new players. And that's kind of the same premise. You don't want all those new players together so they're always losing. So you try to give them some stronger players and put them against other new players so that it's a more even matchup. Both sides have more fun. But if you think about the experience from a from a experienced player perspective, yes, the new players are going to be winning more often. Where do those wins come from? They come from those experienced players, which is okay at a baseline because it's more important to have those new players enjoying themselves than it is for the good players to be winning every single game. But there is a balance. And I think that from what we've heard from the community, that balance is slightly shifted too far in favor of the new players. And what I mean by that is that if you are a player who does not want to play ranked, because maybe you are traveling and you're on a laptop, or maybe you have bad lag that day, or maybe you just don't feel like trying that hard and you want to play games, but you don't really want to sweat over them and you don't want to play ranked. In all of those situations, if you are a player who is somewhat good at the game, but not very good at the game, you're going to be constantly bogged down with weaker teammates to the point that you have to try really hard if you want to win any of those games. And that kind of feeds back into itself because now if you're winning those games, your teammates get worse and worse over time. So for players who are very, very good and can carry an entire team against any opponents, nothing really happens. So if you take like your players at the top of the ranked leaderboard right now, if you put any of these players into that system, they're not really going to care. They're still going to win all their casual games. It's not like it really affects their experience. But if you take somebody who's ranked maybe in tier 4 or 5, they get the meta. They understand how to be a pretty good player. They know kind of the map routes a little bit better than others, but they're not really good enough to just carry with ease. So they have to try pretty hard to win those games to make up for their weaker teammates. And so there is room for that to exist in some capacity. It's not like having that happen is a terrible thing, but if that's every single game that you're playing, it's not really casual anymore for you. Because if you want to win games, which you still want to win, even though it's casual, you kind of have to try more than you were hoping to try. So the way that we're trying to strike the balance between those two mentalities of making new players have more fun and letting semi-experienced players still enjoy casually is really just to expand those boundaries. So I talked about the 60-40 check already, where the game has to be 60-40% chance of either team winning. We're just going to expand that all the way down to 25% chance for either team winning. So if it's between a 75 and 25% win possibility for either team, that game will still happen. And something else that I touched on there is how volatile casual games are. So we take that calculation at the very start of the game, 6 seconds to go on the countdown. A lot can change in a casual game after that 6-second mark before the game even starts. You could have a player leaving for ranked. You could have somebody just disconnect because it's casual. You could have somebody lag out. You could have maybe it starts 3v4 and a fourth player joins. Like there's a bunch of different things that mean that calculation isn't really even accurate. 40, 60 games, the games aren't happening. Games aren't being won at the same consistency they're being predicted as a win. So expanding that boundary addresses what I talked about before, but also kind of acknowledges that the system is flawed and that's okay. So it's not the end of the world to be generating matches that are unfair, because in reality, they might not be. So let those randomized teams exist more often than not. If we predict a blowout, one team is more than 75% likely to win. Now we're going to balance it because we don't want that blowout to happen in that first bullet point. But if it's not going to be a blowout, let things play out. See what happens. It's casual. It'll be fine. That's the idea right now. So that's also going to reduce the flip-flopping at the start of the game, because if there is a more likely chance that it's going to fall inside 25 to 75 than it is 40 to 60. So it's more likely it's not going to decide that it needs to shuffle at all. So switching should be reduced, and we'll see how it plays out. And this is the kind of thing that, again, we're going to have to see what the community thinks about it. This is based off of complaints that we've heard. I haven't personally had this problem as a casual player, but if enough people say it, it's probably something worth looking into. So that's our first attempt. That branch went in on, I think it was last Saturday. So we'll see how it plays out. If you are somebody who plays casual a lot and finds that your experience gets a lot better or worse, please say something so we can respond accordingly. And if you have any questions about that was a very long-winded rant, so feel free to ask any follow-ups there. So, other things that happened. I talked about the new player indicator plenty. That's just going through a couple more changes, making sure that moderators and monitors can appropriately mark a new player as not new if they aren't actually new, because no system is perfect that's automated. There are going to be players who start a new account or join from a different location, and it's very obvious from the start that they are much better than a new player. We don't want those very good players to still be marked as new, or that mark will lose meaning essentially over time. So monitors can say, not actually new, take away their indicator, and all continues as expected. So that, a little more back and forth there. A review came in for that randomized flare thing I talked about. Made some branches for that long conversation I just talked about, making sure that we had recorded that we wanted to actually do it, so it makes the release notes. Then more new player stuff. More of that. And then last thing is just it's a very technical thing. It's not really important for the stream. Just it's about the tier expansions still. So still trying to make sure that we get that right on the next try right there. We also need to fix that visual bug where they overlap. That looks terrible, but yeah, so that's it. It's not that much in terms of bulk of code written, but it was a lot of conversation and making sure that we did the right thing with it. So we'll see how that plays out. So that takes us to the end of development updates for the last week. Like I said, testing session tonight. If you are not in the official Discord, please join so you can actually join those testing sessions. I will put that link in the chat in a moment. And if you didn't already opt into future group notifications, if you go to the role assignment channel and you go to the very top, you can select the future group tester role and get a ping anytime that we are planning to have a testing session. So that's tonight. Release hopefully next week or the week after. And that's enough rambling for now. So Other thing I forgot to mention was the form that I have. If you have any questions for me that you don't want your name attached to, feel free to fill out the form that I'm about to put in the chat. And I'm going to check right now to see if we got any responses in the last week. Looks like no, but this is here. I'll pin this one as well. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And otherwise, we're going to move on to the candy board. So, like I said, candy board is kill. We no longer have access to the back end, but we do have access to the front end of the candy board. So we're going to sort by new, and I'm just going to respond to these as me instead of as the future group, and that's good enough. So I think the best way to do this is a new tab, probably. Yeah. All right. Inform players in casual game if someone leaves for ranked. So this has come up a few times. This is not a new suggestion, but it is something that players want. So hopefully we can prioritize this somewhat soon. I think that we've marked it as I don't love this view as much as I had before. So just to talk while I'm searching here, the plan for this right now is to tell teammates when you are ready for a ranked game. So you get that notification that says ranked game ready, and it gives you a timer. And then at some point when you respawn, it will try to replace you with another player who's waiting to play a game. The goal right now is to mark your ball so that your teammates can see that at some point you are going to be removed from that match. I can't find the ticket that says that though, which is kind of a problem. Inform players in casual game if someone leaves for ranked. And the reason we didn't want to show it to both sides, like we wanted players to know ahead of time that you're going to be leaving. So they'll know that when you left, it was for ranked, but I want them to know ahead of time because if you are waiting on regrab, for example, it's pretty important for your teammates to know that you might be disconnecting off of regrab. So they might play a little bit differently with that in mind. Sorry, something's in my throat. Give me 1 second here. Okay, anyway, I know it exists here somewhere. If anyone remembers what it was, it would be helpful so I can mark it. But maybe it's disconnect. No. Rank DC. Maybe we just made a ticket for it. We don't have an actual... Notify teammates, maybe? Notify. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So I've got the ticket here. Mark ranked ready players on the client side to their teammates only. So as I was saying here, we want teammates to know, but we don't want the other team to know when you might be leaving because then they might exploit that. They might juke at the person who might disconnect. They might force that person on to regrab. I don't know. It's not information that the enemy team needs to know, but it is information that your team wants to know. So it's in-game ranked queue denotation. That's the word I wasn't going to find. Denotation. Aha. Okay. Currently planned. See here. And this is the unfortunate thing about not having canny access now is I can't close this or merge it or anything like that, but it's okay. We'll make do. Shorter minigame starting countdown. This is one that we have planned already. I don't know if Zena's here in the chat or not. We are cutting down the start time for minigames from 20 seconds to 10 seconds. And the reason we landed on 10 is that if you cut down to 5 seconds, which is what it asks for here, that was actually our initial plan. But if you cut down to 5 seconds, you lose that pre-game zoom in. And for mini games especially, that can be somewhat important because it's going to be a weird map that you've never seen before potentially. So it's nice to know what is actually on this map before you zoom in and play it. It takes me that long to find the tab. That's also important for Grant once you get that notification, but it's mini games, so it's not a huge deal. So let me see. I think we have a ticket for this one as well. Let me just see if I can find it. But this is in the next release, so this is already done and ready to go. Looks like there is no canny post on this one, but yeah. So let me grab the canny post here, add it in. Planned, or in progress actually. The next release will include a change to cut the pregame countdown for mini games to 10 seconds from the current 20. Greater than 6 seconds is required. My goodness, typing today. To preserve the pregame zoom in so that players can see the whole map. Okay, but good suggestion, thank you. Player respawn icons. This is an interesting one. So they're saying it's hard to tell sometimes if your teammates are alive, if they haven't said in chat that they have like a 20-second respawn timer or whatever it is. So it looks like they're asking for the little player icons in the bottom corner. So if you look in a replay here, you'll see what they're talking about in the very bottom of the screen. You've got this little indicator. Whoops, not that replay. Please, an actual game. Here we go. So you can see down here, they have the 4 different balls showing the 4 players. If somebody disconnects or at the start of the game, you'll see there aren't everybody there yet. So what they're asking for is while in overtime or even during the game, if somebody is respawning, mark this differently to show that they're respawning essentially. And this is a similar request to one that we've gotten for AFK players, and I think pending is the other one. We're in the pregame countdown. Once the game actually starts, if somebody is not pressing their keys, they get the little hourglass or they get the ZZZ. Players have asked for that to also be shown up here so that if you're on the other side of the map, you can tell, oh, the other team has an AFK player without relying on that other team to announce that they have an AFK player. And I think if I can find that ticket, I could probably just modify it. Here it is. So if a player is pending or AFK, one of the ball indicators should be decorated to show this. It should be grayed out to show, yeah. So basically just this. I think if we were going to be modifying this, it would be easiest to do them all at once. So I'm going to add in this request here. Let me just make sure I read this all correctly. Those are T's, not D's. Well, Grant's in the chat. Grant's probably going to say the real solution is to stop having the OT increment respawns. But yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool just in general though during the game to have them grayed out. I didn't say it, but I did think it. Yeah, all right, good enough. Excuse me. So I think I'm going to add this to the same ticket. Another relevant canny post for respawning players to be dimmed or grayed out. Could be OT specific for longer respawn timer or for the whole game. Whichever looks better probably. So the problem is during the game, is that too much information? Like, is it going to become just noise? But it's a pretty minor visual effect. It's not like it's jumping out at you or anything. It's just slightly grayed out. So I think that's harmless enough. I'm going to say planned. I'm currently planning to mark players who are AFK pending in the scoreboard player icons. Adding respawn indicators. Not a bad thing to call them. Adding respawn markers, maybe. Should be a minor but useful addition. Okay. Good enough. Pizza loading animation on spawning balls. Now that's an interesting one. So this is saying that during a game, they like to see when a boost is going to spawn or a bomb or a power-up. They want the same thing on players. I think I have two different opinions on this one. First opinion is the I've been playing this game forever opinion, which is that it's a skill to know how long it's going to be from when that indicator shows up to when the player actually spawns. The secondary, less I've been playing this game forever opinion, is that the timer on players respawning is exactly the same as the amount of time that we show an indicator for a boost spawning. So if we're already showing boost spawning, why wouldn't we also just show players spawning? It's the exact same thing. You know it's going to be respawning. We tell you when. Why wouldn't you allow that to be on players if you already do it on boosts? So I think the most controversial part of this is that some players are advocating for the entire removal of pizzas from everything. I don't think I side with that opinion. But if we're like, actually, screw you guys, we're going to add more pizzas to the last thing that doesn't have pizzas on it, we're basically just flipping the bird to that whole argument. But I don't really think that matters to me. This would be the kind of thing that in competitive games where they have respawn timers disabled, I think that would also apply to player balls. So I don't think it's a huge deal. Pizza timers for game launch? Like the whole map is just a pizza timer that turns into the map as the countdown completes? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Grant. It's more consistent with what we're currently doing. Numbers are hard to read. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, sorry, Josh. I missed a question from you. Have you seen an uptick in new players independent of the Homic people? I swear I'm seeing a lot more new players in casual. I can't say for certain if the new players are independent from the Homic tournament. Homic has a pretty solid following of people who found the game. I think there's a good 50-something new players who all had to pub at some point. I haven't been looking that closely at account creation rates. Let me take a quick look just to see if we're in an uptick or not. Today alone, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 accounts today. Yesterday we had a lot. 37 yesterday. And about keeps going 30, 35 the day before on Wednesday. So it's been a little bit higher than usual. Not insanely high, but I think usually we average in about the 10 to 30 range. But yeah, it does look like we're up, and it dips back down. Like on Saturday, we only had 8. So it ebbs and flows, and it's kind of hard to predict. It doesn't seem to be tied to anything specific that we do. It might be something happening in places we don't monitor, like if somebody mentions it in a group chat or it comes up on a subreddit somewhere that we didn't see. You'll see an uptick, but it could be something honestly as silly as like a certain Vsauce video gets pulled up in the algorithm for YouTube, and now a couple hundred people noticed it that didn't see it before, and like a small percentage of them find the game. So there are a lot of factors kind of out of our scope of vision, whatever you want to call that, that can change that. But I wouldn't say that I've seen a larger than expected uptick for the number of new players that are in that Homic tournament. And for those who don't know what that is, you can find that at, I think it's Homic/Frozen Balls. Let me pull that up real quick. So Homick is a player who found the game. I think Gemini. He asked it for like a free game that he could play, and it suggested TagPro, and he made this tournament with all of his friends who have all signed up. So check out this. It's homick.org/frozenballs if you want to check out his website that he's got going here. And there's a whole tournament going. It's a good time. They've been having some fun with it. They've had streams going on as well. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. It's pretty funny. And again, these are brand new players. They have not played TagPro before, so watching them play, it really takes you back to like the early days where nobody knew what was going on. They're playing game maps like Star out there. It's a good time. So check it out if you haven't. But I have not seen more new players than I would expect based on the number of new players who are in that tournament, to answer your original question. So anyway, sorry. Pizza timer things. That's we're gonna make a ticket for this because I think this is a valid request. I'm gonna say add timer respawns. Follow-up question. And Grant, I think your opinion on this is gonna matter. If we have existed as a game for 12 years now, 13 years now. How long has it been? My God. And we have not had respawn indicators on balls. Are players who want respawn indicators on their boosts and bombs going to be upset about now also having respawn indicators on their ball? Would you need to separate those settings out? Because we don't currently have a way to do that. I look good today, brother. Thank you, brother. Because right now, if you look at the respawn options, it's tile respawn warnings. So we would have to make it separate, like ball respawn warnings, because these are tiles and a player is not a tile, a player is a ball. I think that would be better to have them separate. I don't know. That's just my knee-jerk reaction. I wouldn't say I'll die on that hill, but hydrate. Thank you. And my throat has been scratchy today, so I appreciate that. You don't think it's particularly needed? Like, you don't think separating them out is needed? Because, like, do you disagree with the line of thinking that if I have been playing for a long time, I don't want indicators on my respawning ball? I know how long it's going to be because I've been playing the game long enough that I can time that down to the frame. But that's not everybody. So I think separating it is the way to kind of toe that line. Because I wouldn't want to... Oh, I see. Josh is anti-separate. Well, I'll make the ticket. We're not going to get to it right away. We can revisit. Add timer respawn indicators to respawning. This is a terrible wording. Add indicators. There we go. To respawning balls. Currently, apply respawn indicators to boosts, bombs, power-ups for 3 seconds before they spawn, according to player selections. You've got Blink, Pizza, Alpha. Add these same indicators to player balls when they are spawning. Portals, thank you. Is there a world where someone uses respawn timers elsewhere? That's what I'm saying. It's me. I am. I don't want my ball to have, because I use blinkers right now. I like having the blink on a boost, but I don't. Like, I know exactly when that player is going to spawn. Timed gates. I think that those only turn off. Oh, you're saying in addition to balls also. I think that's actually a ticket that exists already. Let me see if I can find that. Add blinkers to sticky gates. Yeah, so we have a request for that already. But yes, that is a good thought, Josh. Currently apply respawn indicators to boost bombs, power-ups, portals for 3 seconds before they spawn according to player selections. Add these same indicators to player balls when they are spawning. And that is going to be here. Relevant canny post. That would be a, actually it wouldn't be a low effort because you can have, no, it would be low effort. That's low effort. Low effort enhancement. And I should just add another little note that this is more consistent than omitting the timer. Or no, I guess it's not even omitting the timer, because what we do right now with the player ball is we're that is a respawn timer. We're just using the alpha option on the profile. Like you've got the, sorry, transparent is what it's called. On the back end, it's called alpha. But transparent indicators, you could have that for boosts and bombs too, where it shows up but dimmed out before it actually spawns. That's just what we do for the player. So we're forcing transparent respawn timers, even though we already have them. So all the question is, can we change transparent to pizza or blink instead of forcing transparent on the player ball? So that's actually a lot less controversial than it was in my head. We currently force the transparent respawn indicator on balls. I kind of hate it, in truth. And that was the kind of thing that existed before. It existed before we had power-up previews, like what the next pup is going to be. So it would show you the next pup as it was spawning. But now it's kind of useless because it's showing that transparent on top of the already transparent preview, I think. So it doesn't look like anything happened. So you don't have that information that it's spawning soon because it just looks like it did the whole time. Or like the alpha changes slightly, so it becomes like a little bit less transparent, but nobody's noticing that in a game. Anyway, I think that's good enough there. Let me just say this is planned. Ticket has been submitted internally. Internally has not yet been assigned to a developer. Included when time allows. Okay, and I think that's all of these. Were there any bug reports that came in? Looks like no. So that's good enough for the candy post, which brings us to our feature building session. I did just get a ping on Discord. Let me make sure it's not important. It is not important. Okay. So this week, our schedule, or our feature building session, is based off of something that a developer has just started tinkering with. And I want to draw up a plan for how to actually implement what they have been tinkering with. And this is something that's come up before in the past. This is not a new suggestion, but we didn't really think it was possible to do it at the quality level that we're seeing before now. And that thing is an implementation of a native clipping feature allowing for video export of replay files. Now I'm going to say that again a little bit slower and a little bit differently. Previously with replays, you have a file you can download. It's an ND-JSON. You can play it back in TagPro and you can share that replay as the ND-JSON or as a link to the TagPro website, and you can watch back part of that replay. But there is no way to export that replay as a video file to use for things like montages or just sending highlights to players or maybe submitting something to the mod team. Whatever you want to do with it, you can't do that as a video file. You have to do it through the TagPro site with a timestamp, which is really good from a data storage standpoint. It's really good from a rendering standpoint. It's a very cheap thing for us to do. It's very easy for us to host these things, and it's very accessible for everybody. But if you want to make a video of something, you need to have software on your computer that can record your screen as TagPro plays that replay back to you. So what we have fixed, or are fixing, and this is Orchid's project right now, it's not done, but it's in progress, is a way to have the replay up in front of you, but pick when you want it to start, when you want it to end, and render an actual video file from the replay that's in front of you. So As I said, we didn't think this was really possible. We tried it briefly a long time ago. Bash kind of spent some time on it and decided it wasn't really worth the time it was taking. There have been some improvements in browsers lately, and we've gotten a better understanding of kind of the core of what the game is, like the Box 2D physics and Pixie.js, stuff like that. So it is actually possible. So our goal today is going to be discussing what does that look like on the front end? How do we display that clipping feature to players? So it's going to be native clipping and video export on tagpro.gg. So what do we actually want that to look like? So a couple of things that immediately come to mind that I want to keep in the back of our head as we go is that Twitch does something kind of like this. And you don't need to make a clip, but if you're watching the stream right now, if you look in the bottom right corner, there will be a little option to clip. And you'll see what happens when you click on clip. It will pop up with a separate view of my stream, and it will show you a little bar at the bottom. And I'm going to take a picture of that right now so you can see what I'm looking at if you're on the recording later. But it gives you a little bit of a bar, and you can use that bar to decide how long or short you want your video file to be. And I've always found this to be a pretty good feature because it lets you customize how long or short you want the file to be. It shows you exactly where it starts and where it ends, and it enforces a maximum length because we don't want players trying to clip the entire replay. That would be very slow for starters, and it would be probably lower quality if I had to guess. It's balancing a lot of things basically. So there might become a point where we can let people render the whole thing, but initially we would want to cap it to I think about 30 seconds so that it's not excessive. You always thought just record your replay with OBS was shocking when I learned that's how people were. Yeah, it's not the most user-friendly thing. It's a big barrier to getting things out there. And I think back to when we had that Chrome extension, the TagPro Replays Chrome extension. That was a really powerful thing because players could make a lot of different clips for nothing. They didn't have to have anything special. They just needed to have that extension and they could do whatever they wanted. And so I think that we've kind of kneecapped ourselves a little bit in the process because we don't have the ability for players to really share their experiences with the game. And I'm trying to find that extension that I talked about. I had it a minute ago. Where is it? Here we go. So you might remember this. It doesn't work anymore. Don't try to download this. It's completely broken. But you'll remember it had this feature here where you could have all of your replays and you could name them and you could render them and you could download them as an actual video file. And this was really, really good for making montages and sharing clips and all the stuff that we want to be able to do. This stopped working because it stopped getting updated. It completely broke everything. We asked players to start removing it about 4 years ago because it was creating a bug that makes absolutely no sense, but it was messing up with the drop downs in group settings. So that if you had this installed, it took us like 3 days to figure this out. If you had this installed, it wasn't doing anything, but your drop downs in the group would be missing items that you wanted to click on to set your group settings up. We never really looked into it. We just found the source and said, get rid of this because it's not useful anymore. But yeah, this is the kind of thing that we want to try to emulate a little bit if we can. So that's the scope. Now I have to figure out what we actually want it to look like. And in the process, somebody also mentioned, could we have a built-in sharing feature to display clips on the site, vote on them, have a feed of cool replays kind of thing, or cool highlights. And that would be a nice thing to add as well. So that's our premise. I'm trying to figure out now where I want to actually start with that. Also thinking about how do you start this process. So we've got replays right now, and that's going to be a nice starting point for how we do this. For those who don't know, if you are watching or playing in a replay, you can click on, I believe it's the / key, this is in the profile settings, to mark on your replay. Yeah, so you can mark on your replay that you want to save that mark on your replay. So if I go to a replay and I Go to my favorite games. I think I've marked one of these. Nope, didn't mark this one. I know I've tested this somewhere. Sorry. I just want to find this real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Can I mark it anywhere? Okay, maybe I never did that. / Well, anyway, it should show up with... Oh, wait. Yeah, no marks. I swear I had marks on some of these. Anyway, if you click on that button that I just showed you on the profile during a game that you were playing, when you go to your replay after the game, there will be a black tick mark on the timeline that says that you clicked that button at this time. And so I think we can leverage that a little bit in this feature here. And I think Orchid was thinking the same thing already. Sorry, this is really bothering me. I swear I had... Nope, I guess I'm lying. Okay. Anyway, replays have a marking feature, which could kind of function similar to what this was. So this worked by clicking that button while you're in a game, and then it would show you that 30-second timestamp in a list of things, and you can go through them later. We have the replays, so instead of showing you a list of all the times that you clicked it and a replay file, you would have all of your replays, and inside of those replays, you have all of your marks that you've made. So you could easily go back to your replay, find the mark that you just made, and then hopefully from there, you would have your actual clipping feature and download and all that. So you could always make some new marks. So yeah, I think we would have to allow players to add marks while watching a replay. I think that's an important thing to add, so they can come back to that later if they want to decide what to render. Slightly unrelated, but still could be bundled together. So back to the broader scope though. If we have a replay feature, we have marks on a replay, what do you actually do to turn that into a file? How does that actually look on the client side? I'm going to show you a couple of mock-ups that Orchid's shared with us just so we can have something to start with. Where'd this go? Sorry, I gotta find. Here we go. Sorry, this is in the negative color right now, so don't take the color as anything important, but what you can have is you could have your profile, which again, the profile is being broken up into stats, flares, and settings. One suggestion was to add a highlights tab to the profile. So that's something we should decide on. Do you put your replay or your clips in the, it's a stealthy UI UX exercise? Yeah, sorry. Do you put it on the replay tab or do you put it on the profile? I think that's a decision we need to make early on because it's going to make a big difference. Where do you go if you want to watch your clips? Not your full games, you just want to watch your clips that you've made. Does that go in the replay because it's video file? Or does it go in the profile because it's like a customized thing that you wanted to save for later? I think yeah, I feel like replays makes more sense just because it's a similar content, I guess is what we're looking for. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense to me. So you would have you would just say like clips, kind of like that. Oh, did that not work? So you would have another tab like that, and it would be your clips tab, and you can click on that, and that would take you to clips that you've made. So is that clips that you've made, or is that markings that you've made? Because it would have to be after you've actually clipped them that they show up. Because we're thinking if you're marking in a replay, you're playing a game, something cool happens in that game. You press a key that says something cool happened right now. Later on in the replay, it's taking you to that same timestamp, but you haven't rendered a clip yet. There's no clip to look at. It's just a timestamp of a thing that you might want to clip in the future. I think from there, that's when you actually do clip it. Yes, that's how it worked. It was a very messy way of doing that, so we didn't want to copy that approach. But that did have files ready, I think, right away, which was nice. But no, it worked. It worked. The way that it worked was horrifying. If you look behind the scenes, they have a GitHub if you want to look at it. It's right here. I could put that in the chat if anyone wants it. Again, this does not work. Don't try to make anything with it. It's not functioning, but that does exist. Are you saying from a front end standpoint, would you? Because that had a button on the home page too. It had like a replays button here where you could click play now, or you could click on your replays. Actually, I think the tutorial actually has that.
How to play TagPro in 4 minutes. TagPro is a fast...
Wait. Where'd it go? Yeah, the replay, it was this right here. It gave you another button next to the play now button. And that would pull up this image that I was showing you. Oh yeah, I don't know what's going on over there, sorry. Where'd that go? There, that would bring up this right here with all of your replays. I have never clicked one go away. Oh yeah, I don't watch those. Like, I don't want to watch your chess video, sorry. So let's start making some decisions here. We can't render them immediately. It's not feasible to have them rendered right off the bat. So when you mark a game, I'm just going to do free text for now. When you mark a timestamp during your game, that replay is that replay on the drop down. Too many tabs. So in your My Games, I think it should show up here that you did something in this game that you marked. So I want some sort of indicator here that says you marked this replay. So that replay appears on your My Games tab in replays and indicates that it is a game with a mark. And we should probably add a filter for that as well if we don't already have one. Like games that have marks on them. Add filter option for games with marks. So I don't want it separated out because that's not really a thing we can do right now, just based on the implementation that we're working with. It would be nicer to have it rendered already for you, but we don't have a way to do that. So what it would be instead would be, well, I guess what you're saying is, do you have it take you to, like, do you have a list of marks that you've made independent from your list of games? So one replay, so say I have one replay here. In this replay, I marked 6 different plays that I thought were cool. Instead of coming to My Games and looking at this replay with my 6 different marks, I would have a different tab which is just marks, and it has 6 different entries, and each of those entries is the same game, but it takes you to a different point of that game. Is that what you're asking? Because you could, I think you'd want to be a little more, you'd want to customize where that starting point is, but you probably, you might want to go farther back than you expect. So even if we did 30 seconds, maybe you wanted to make a 45-second clip. I don't know. Or maybe you forgot to press it until like 10 seconds later, then you finally press it, and now it's off-centered because you pressed it after the thing happened and you wanted to go back. So I think if you had it cut ahead of time, that wouldn't work from a display standpoint. And also the way replay files work, you can't start a game halfway through. You have to start a game from the beginning and then play all those socket messages up to where you are now. So it has to be the full replay file no matter what you do. Sorry, I'm going to keep When you mark a timestamp during a game, that replay appears in your My Games tab and indicates that it is a game with a mark. Add a fill shot from, yeah, so that's good. So now, when you open a replay with a mark, how do you actually go from that to rendering that clip? And I have another mock-up from Orchid here that we can use as a foundation. I think. Because I don't want it to be like noisy. I want it to be a quieter thing so it's not in your face. And then if you want it to pop up, then it becomes a little bit more noticeable kind of thing. What's going on here? Sorry, he sent me a recording, but it's not what I thought it was. Like basically, how do you switch from I am watching a replay to I am recording a clip? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Where does that switch actually happen? How do you switch from I am watching a replay to I am recording a clip? And I think it would happen in the actual replay. So say we're here, we've got our bars on the top and the left. It's probably going to be something that we do in the top bar. Like, do you have like a little recording button here and you click on that and then it pulls up the display? I feel like that's probably the easiest option. We already have a lot of buttons, but we could obviously, I mean, there's room for more if we needed there to be. Is there a font awesome for like a recording? Font awesome record. Not record, recording. Ugh, cassette tape, get out of here. Replay. No. Live, maybe? All right, maybe we have to make a custom thing. This is not as helpful as I thought it was going to be. The Windows Photo app has a similar feature to this that I use for trimming videos. Yeah, a little camera. Probably something like that would be the standard we'd start with. Windows Photo app. I don't know if I have a photo. It has a way of doing what? Oh, I see. It's got the little, it looks like a little YouTube. Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. Anyway, I think this is probably a safe starting point, but basically an icon, small icon on the seeking bar to switch to clipping view, and then clipping view opens kind of that thing from Twitch that I talked about already. Like, you've got that bar that shows you the start of your clip and the end of your clip, and then you can decide. Let me grab that again. Opens that little bar. Seeking bar opens, like it's like a wrapper around the seeking bar, showing start and end of clip. Can still seek what the heck? Seek within the wrapper, but not. Can you seek outside of it? I guess it wouldn't really matter. No, you want to know exactly when it starts. because then you want to adjust like where that edge is accordingly, so you can see. This is the start of my recording. DM'd says good. Thank you. I kind of hate that icon, I'll be honest. Is it okay if I send this into the... So you're saying this has a... Sorry, the inverted colors are really throwing me off here. It's this little icon in the corner here. How do I get this out of here? Get out of here. Second screenshot is more what I wanted to show. Okay, let's grab that then. So what am I looking at in this second one here? Oh, it just pulls up like this bar down here. So how, is that the seeking thing there? It's that orange bar that I'm looking at. I guess it's blue on your screen. So that's showing you where the start and the end of your clip is, because you can drag that up and down. Okay, so that's very similar then to what Twitch is doing. It's the same idea where you're dragging a bar back and forth to decide where the start and the end of the clip is. Okay, I think that works fine. Yeah, because we could just treat that the same way it's seeking works now in a replay. Like if I'm in a replay and I click here, it takes me to that part of the replay. So if I'm switching to clipping view and it gives me that wrapper or that bar like you showed us there, and you drag it back to this part, it just sets it to there and starts to play the recording from there. I think that works really well, actually, because we already have that built in. So you can do the same thing at the end of the clip and make sure that it ends where you want it to, but it would probably have to... Adjustments of 1 second by dragging. Looks like it. Yeah, I'm going second by second. It's fine. Yeah, that works. So, and that wasn't that hard for me to do either, which is good. So yeah, I think that's good. So let's say, we'll keep this one. I'm going to crop this down to what's relevant. Okay, those are our two options for seeking bar type things. Ah! Come back. There we go. Can still seek within the wrapper, but not outside of it. Once in clipping mode, drag the ends of the selection, or whatever you want to call it, to the desired length of the clip. That works fine. I like that a lot, actually. So then what do you do after you have... With an hour-long map is going to hate us? That's on them. That's okay. So what do you do after you've done that now? So say you switch to that view that we've just talked about. You've gotten the clip to the length that you want it to be. What do you actually do from there? Do you export that to your own collection? I don't think you would share that automatically. I think you would have... So that would be... You clip it. You click save, I guess, in some capacity. Save button, which renders the clip. And he had a whole module for this because there are different ways of rendering. I'm not going to get into that right now, but basically you can choose to render it quickly in lower quality or render it a little bit slower in a high quality, depending on what you're trying to do with it. Different encode, like FFM, I'm not gonna, it's over my head right now, but there are different ways to encode video files, basically, based on the computer that you're using and the constraints that you're working with. So after you save it, save button, which pops up the rendering module, and then this starts the render and saves it to where? That would be maybe this clip tab that we talked about. So that would be empty until you've gone through what we just talked about. And then after you've gone through that process, it would send it to clips. And once you get to clips, now it's got a list of the items. Are you planning on storing people's MP4 for them? No, I think that would be in the browser. It would be a local storage thing, not in the database on TagPro's side of things. You mentioned replays right now can't start in the middle, so the only option here is to render. Yeah, you can't. What I mean by that is you can't take a 5-minute replay and ignore the first 3 minutes of that replay and only have a 2-minute replay. You have to have those 3 minutes to give the game the information it needs to construct the starting point at 3 minutes. If you throw that out, it's lost. It doesn't know. It's going to have part of the map, parts of the player acceleration and stuff. It's going to be missing important data, including the map data. So you can't just remove that information. It needs to be there, even if it's hidden, to get to that point. That's one of the limitations of the text-based replay system that we have. When it's a video file, whatever, it's a video file. Do whatever you want with it. It sure would be cool if you could. Yeah, I'm sure it would. I think the best we could do is I was gonna say, can we like do like a pre-rendered save? But I don't think that it's. You got me thinking now. Can you take the timestamp that you've decided on, just like we just did? No, I think you might be onto something here. So we've got the replay, and you've got your bar that you drag back and forth. If you wanted to save that bar, that would be pretty easy to do. So you wouldn't have to render it right there. You would just say, I want that 20-second clip later. So I'm going to save, like when you render that clip, you could also say this replay had previously rendered this 20-second period. So even though we don't save the actual file that you rendered, we could save the parameters that you created to render that clip. So if you, like you said, cleared everything out and lost all of it, you could still go back and say, okay, I found this, I liked this and I saved it, but I lost it. I'm going to go back to that replay. I'm going to re-render it without having to set it all up again. As long as you could find that replay, you could still recreate the same thing. So let me if possible, rendering a clip also saves the parameters of that render to the replay. If a player loses the replay, the file in the future, they can return to the replay and see past render parameters and re-render without needing to set it up again. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what the markings are. So it would just be an extension of what markings do with replays in mind, with rendering in mind. So that should be totally fine. So anyway, so ignoring that though, save button pops up a rendering module. You choose module, you choose whatever you want your render to be. And then that render is saved locally, right? I just want to confirm that with Orchid real quick. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna say that for now. Saves it to a new clips tab in your replay tab. Wow, typing. Okay, so you've rendered it, you like it, you save it, it goes to here, and you have a list of all of the clips that you have rendered. I feel like I'm missing something there, though. I feel like there has to be... Like, why can't that clips thing be the seek bar that we just talked about that I was saying we could save to the... Like, does that have to be pre or post render? I think that's what's messing with me. Is the clips tab before or after you've actually rendered the file? And if it's after, like Grant was saying, you could lose access to those so your clips would go away. Well, we're storing all replays, but we can only do that because they're text files. Video files take up a lot more space than text files. That's why we do it that way. That's a large part of why we do it that way. If we change that to storing video files, that would be out the window immediately. We would not have the same freedoms. I feel like I'm missing something important here. You also have a link to the replay file with the marks. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's after rendering, instead of the above, keep the entry in clips, but if the local cache was cleared, file is gone, it is still easy to re-render because the full replay and the start end time of the original clip plus name are present in the clips tab. So I think to summarize that again, you go here, you pick the section you like, you render it, done. Once it's rendered, it goes to your clips tab. In the clips tab, you can watch that file back. If for some reason that file does not exist, the browser can't find it because you deleted it from your cookies or your cache or whatever, the clips entry still exists. It still says that you saved a video file from this replay, because that's just it's a single UUID for the replay. It's super cheap to store that information. So you save the UUID, the start time, the end time, and then the name that you put to the clip. Like if you said sick cap, that's the name of your clip. That can still be in clips, but if you go to watch it, it would just take you to the replay where you can re-render it instead of taking you to the file that you have rendered. Is that what you were thinking, Grant? Cool. All right, sold. I like that. Okay, good enough there. So now, in the Clips tab, we want the option to what? Options to delete. Delete an entry. Edit an entry? Would that be a thing you do? Like, can you take the clip that you already created? Maybe you want to make it slightly longer. You could go in. It would take you back to the replay view with your parameters set up, and you could edit it to whatever you want and re-render it with the new parameters. I think that would be pretty easy to do. Can you clip a clip? Yeah, edit. Including make it longer, because this takes you back to the original replay view with the start end time set. And then the last one is the more fun part of this that we haven't talked about yet, which would be sharing that clip. So it would already be downloaded because it's in your storage. So I don't think we have to have a download option, because when you rendered it, it was downloaded. But maybe if download, I'll say should already be downloaded or in browser, but maybe a way to make that more user friendly. But the most important one here, share clip. And I want to talk about share clips more. If I want to make a sick montage, how do I get into my downloads is what someone wants to know, versus just browser storage. Yeah, so I think I'll mess with, or I'll talk to Orchid about that and see if we want to mess around with it. I think it's probably pretty easy, but anyway, sharing clips. This is the actual goal of the feature that we're talking about. As I talked about before, you want ways for players to say, this is a cool thing that I did, to post it online, to share it with their friends, to do whatever you would do with a clip that we used to do a lot back when we had access to this feature. So I think first thing that we could do is set up a feed of submitted clips on the site. We'll talk about that more in a minute. I think that it would also be nice to have a Discord bot sharing published clips to highlights automatically. And then with the feed, what does that actually look like? So I'm going to assume for now that players do actually want to look at clips of other people playing the game. If that ends up not being true, I'll be kind of bummed, but I feel like that's a thing that people would want. But the hard part is that people want to see cool clips, not dumb clips, right? So how do you decide which ones are good and which ones are bad? And what I'm apprehensive to here is I don't want to recreate social media on TagPro. Like, I think like an upvote system could make sense, but I don't want to go too far down that path. So how does that look? I think you'd have to have a maximum number of submissions per time period. Can't spam 20 clips in a day. They would be tied to your account, so nothing anonymous. Probably would have to be removed by moderators if necessary, because if you have a clip with like a bad word in the name, that would have to get removed. People could also make a custom map that spells out something bad, not to give people ideas. That would have to be removed. So probably just safer to allow mods to remove if they need to. Yeah, like stuff like that would be I don't know. I hope it wouldn't happen, but I kind of see it happening. So yeah. But I'm trying to figure out more of the actual community side of it. What do people actually want to see? How do we show them what they want to see but not have it stay there forever? So you could do a very basic upvote system. Kind of like map ratings almost. Give players X votes per time period, so they don't just upvote everything. I don't know. I'm gonna write this down. I'm just kind of afraid of it because I feel like it turns into social media pretty quickly. But give players X votes per time period. Show most voted clips at the top of the list. Clips fall in the list when they stop receiving new votes at X rate. Just no, definitely not comments. No, that's a hard no on comments. That is not happening. I'm not moderating a comment section of a TagPro clip on the site. That is just no, absolutely not. But if you had a very basic list of these are the clips that were submitted recently, these ones have the upvotes thing, and kind of like what the candy board does, honestly. It's got, where'd that go? It's got things that people submitted, people vote on them, and then the stuff that's upvoted is trending and it goes to the top, and the stuff that is older goes to the bottom. Then you can still sort by top, so you can see the best ones of all time, but by default, it's trending, and you can, okay, actually that's it. That's it right there. New, trending, top, done. Boom. Okay, we're copying candy board. new trending top. New is whatever is most recent. Trending is most upvotes per hour for the last 5 hours, for the last 4 days. I don't know. Per X. Top is total counts all time. Did you say exactly what I just said already? You said beacha? Oh, you did. You did say it again. God damn it. Congrats. Yeah, that's the thing. We're just reinventing social media, but it's TagPro, so that's okay. Add your daily, monthly, year, all time, and you really have Reddit going. No, 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 no. Maybe. No. What else? What else do we need? Is that good enough as a starting point? I feel like that's pretty close. Oh, for the shared replays, this is important. If you shared it, is it sharing a video file or is it sharing a replay file? And I think, Grant, you were trying to get to this point earlier. You just asked it. Oh my God. I hate you sometimes. No, you're good. I think that I don't think that you have to, because if you just have it be a fixed view. So we've got the replay right now. It opens up like this, so you can see the whole replay. I think that you can modify this so that it only shows the section that they clipped it to. You get rid of the side thing. You get rid of the scroll bar at the top. It's a replay, but we hide the first 3 minutes of the game, so you don't see all of this seek bar stuff, but it's still there behind the scenes because replays load quickly. Like, it takes that long to be in a replay. It's just that instead of loading in there, you load into a timestamp of the replay, and you have an end time of the replay as well. So copy a timestamp. When you make a clip, all you're doing is saying t equals whatever, and then end time equals another timestamp. You take it there, and it starts there, immediately starts to play until it gets to the end of the timestamp, and then it just loops back to the start, and that's it. Nothing else needs to happen. And then if those players want to render it, they can render it themselves, but that wouldn't be a top priority right this second, I think. So you could have that, and you could say, I want to view the full replay, and maybe an option to view full replay from there. Let me write that down. But shared clips are not rendered. They are fragments of a replay, which basically just means that starts from the designated starting timestamp, timestamp, loops back to the start when it reaches the ending timestamp. And then players can render someone else's clip if they want. If they want to. Players can click a button to view the full replay instead of the fragment. If you can do this to only show the clip, cool, but also reposting in highlights or whatever is going to not work at all unless you want to click blind links. No. So when they render it, if they share, we still have access to that video file. So that video file can be sent to Discord, because then Discord's hosting it. We don't have to host that. That's on Discord, so we don't care. It's just when we have it on the site, we have to host that. Right? My roommate is calling me. Let me just make sure that that's not something important. Sorry about that. Oh, wait. Sorry, my roommate got locked out. I think I just buzzed him in, but now he called me again, so I want to make sure. Okay, so we've got the clip. We're sharing it. Did that Discord explanation make sense, Grant? If we take the file that they have rendered and we send that to Discord, I think we can do that. So I don't think that we have to worry about having the video file as text on Discord. I think it can just be an actual video file on Discord, and then the site is where we have it just be the text-based solution. Assuming you have a way to send it to Discord, presumably you can. I am not a Discord bot dev. That is very fair. I'm fairly confident that we can do it. If we can't, obviously that would change a bit of the approach here. But yeah, okay. So what else do we need to do here? We've got kind of everything that we would. This was my other question. Unrendered replay. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to embed an unrendered replay because it's not actually a video. It's just a bunch of letters, so that's useless. No, I think this is in a pretty good place actually. I think the biggest question would be the replays. Where does that show up? Is it another tab in the replays? Because then that gets kind of cluttered now. We've got my games, my favorite games, all public games, upload, clips, and public feed. That seems like it's a little too much to have there. So I would probably have it be somewhere else. But I'm not sure. I don't want another tab either, though. Where to put things is often the hardest part. Could maybe get away with leaders. Competitive and maps could both be moved elsewhere in the top bar. Maybe. Maps is such a small one, it's not too big. Competitive could probably find a new home. I guess we'll have to worry about that later, but because it would have to kind of be its own tab. I don't see that. If possible, should be the rendered video file, not the fragment replay. On tab name highlights, that makes sense. Yeah. Highlights feels like the basic name idea. I like it more than a separate tab. Yeah, I don't like putting it within replays. I think that we just start to lose the meaning of highlights. Highlights. Yes. What else do we need? I feel like it's at least a starting point. A lot of this also depends on the quality of the clip that we can download. I think we've kind of made two different features here because we don't really need the video export to work to have the sharing part, but I think the video export is the more important piece of this. Okay, I think that's enough of a starting point for me to at least talk with some devs. Is there any other social stuff that you could combine with that? I don't see how that really lines up with the calendar. It's not quite. The calendar is like your scheduled a thing to happen. The clip is like, hey, this cool thing just happened now, check it out. Those don't really line up. Anything else? Yeah, we can check the Miro board out real quick and see if anything comes to mind. Come here, Miro. Let's take a look. So for the cornerstones, none of this is really spectator chat, maybe like reactions in the game, but nah. QOL stuff. Zoom levels on mobile, that's probably pretty important because if you're watching a fragment of a replay, it's still going to be beholden to your zoom in and out, which means that if you're on a mobile app and you're trying to watch the replay and it's all zoomed out horribly, it just doesn't work. You can't see what's going on at all. So that would need to be fixed. So yeah, I think that's definitely the number one thing I would say has to happen. Information, would you want like map information? Probably not. Player links, I don't think we need to worry about that because if you're watching the fragment of a replay, you can still click to view the full replay and that full replay will have links to players. So I think that's fine to not worry about for now. The scoreboard has like the map name on it if you need that. You could still open the scoreboard, I assume, because it's still a replay. You can still press escape and have that pop up. So that should be fine. A subsection on the front page itself. News feels dated. Donation goal kind of the same. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's going to be a larger... I mean, I hate all of this anyway. This needs to not be... It could actually. You could have live stream tutorials. It's not quite similar enough to be a third option here. We can play around with it. That's an option. Sorry, other things on the mirror board. We've got particle effects. Nah, I think that if we could get the replay zoom levels fixed, I think that's really the main thing. That's good enough for me. Oh, we blew past 90 minutes. Sorry, I just realized that. Like showing the top 3 clips. Yeah, you can have like a little highlight. I mean, you can do a scroll thing as well. Like it shows the top 3 by default, and then if you scroll, you can see more. But it's very rare for the news feed to fill up entirely. I agree with that. Yeah, I don't think that that's going to be too big of a problem for us. 0 degree. Yeah, okay. I think that that's in a good enough place where we can actually do something. So just to summarize for anyone who watches this back later, we've got a native clipping feature and video export to add to the game. It would be based off of replays. And if you were not familiar with the replay system right now, you have the ability to mark points on your replay to go back and review later. So we're going to hijack that system and say continue to mark the way that you always did, but we're going to add a filter option to your replay so that you can find your games where you marked part of the game. And when you watch those games, you can go to those marks very easily and view whatever it was that you thought was cool. While you're in that replay, watching the replay back, pretend this is a mark that I made, you can say, okay, I want to switch from watching the replay to clipping the replay. And you could go and click a button that we add over here that switches your view. It stays in this tab, nothing reloads, but it pops up with different options that allow you to drag and drop the start and the end of your replay, kind of like these options here, so that you can find where you want your replay to actually begin and where you want it to actually end. And then from there, you can render the clip or you can just save the clip without rendering it. And either one of those things will be fast or slow based on which one you choose. It will send it to a new tab on the replays tab, which is clips that we would add. And your clips are all of the clips that you have made from replays. And you don't have to render them to get them there. You just have to clip it to get it there. You can put a name on the clip. You can share the clip if you... Yeah, you don't have to render it to share it, I guess. So you can share the clip. You can choose to render it there. So we should add that option in. So you can clip without rendering. Render. Allow clips to be generated without rendering. So you can come back later and render them all at once if you wanted to. So you drag it, you find the part you like, you save that clip. If you want to also render it, you can do that right there, or you can just save it and not do anything else. But if you render it, it's going to pop up a module that's going to show you a couple of options for encoding the quality of the video that you want, and then it will take a certain amount of time to actually render that replay. But after it's rendered, it will download that file to your computer, so you have an actual video file to use for whatever you want to do, montages, anything that you like. And once you have created that clip, you also have the option to go to that clips tab and share that clip. So you can edit it, delete it, whatever you want, but if you want to share it, it will send that clip to a feed of other clips that other players have shared. And this can be public games, private games, ranked, casual, it does not matter. And in that feed, you'll be limited to only a couple every week, probably just so we don't have spam. And players can go to that feed, they can view the recent highlights, and they can decide if they like or don't like those replays, and they can vote on them if they like them. And it'll just kind of do what the candy board does, where it's got stuff that's trending, stuff that's the best of all time, and just the newest stuff as well. So it's almost social media-esque, but just no comments, nothing that would be too complicated on top of it. And some other peripheral stuff like allowing mods to remove stuff if they need to, the tied to your account so it's not anonymous, and that stuff. And then just so we don't have to save a million video files, the shared clips would still be actual replays. So when you go to view a clip on the public page of all the clips that you saw, you can view it and it will loop back in that same period. So you dragged and dropped before the start and the end of your clip. If someone is viewing your clip later, it will just loop between the start and the end of where you dragged it. It's not going to show the whole replay file. You don't have to scrub to find where the cool thing happens. It's just going to be the part that they scrub to. If you wanted to view the whole video, there will be a button to take you to the full replay file, but otherwise it will just be that shortened part of the file. And I think that is it. If possible, we would also have that rendered clip be sent to Discord so that you can have a feed on Discord of actual video files, not replay links in the highlights channel on Discord, which would make it a lot nicer to scroll through and view. If we can figure out hosting of video files, I'm not opposed to having a list of actual videos on the site. I just don't think that that's feasible from a hosting standpoint. If we had it on Discord, Discord is hosting that, and that's their problem. So it's a lot easier for us to sell that. So checkboxes to mass render clips, that might be nice. Yeah, I put that as an option. That would be over here. Clips tab, render, multi-render. Probably wouldn't happen at once, but you can go one to the next. Because you'd have to have each, well, you could open multiple tabs and render each of them, but that would it would go so slow. If possible, probably too much for most computers, but could have one start automatically when the previous finishes, and that would be pretty accessible because you could just do your thing, set it all up, and then walk away, and for the next hour it'll render 100 clips if you wanted to. That seems reasonable to me. Is there any privacy on private group replays besides not knowing the UUID? I don't think that's a problem, because if you played in a private game anyway, it's going to show up on tagpro.eu, and anybody can go to tagpro.eu and they can view your replay anyway. So you uncheck save analytics. For those who don't know, you can go here, you can click on UUID, that will take you to an actual replay of that game. Well, it should. Why is that not working? That's awkward. Okay, how about this one? Aha! Takes you to a replay. If you unchecked Save Analytics, it would not go to tagpro.eu. That is correct. So this wouldn't exist. So you're saying that I unchecked Save Analytics and then I shared the replay. I think that's kind of on you for sharing the replay, because if I unchecked Save Analytics and I play my private game, I still get that replay file in my list of replays. Like, nobody else can see this Sardonica replay but me. But if I took the URL, I could still share it and I could still send this to you. If you went to this right now, you would still go to this replay. It's not actually private. It's just not published for anybody else to see. So if you had a clip of a game that was private with save analytics disabled, you would still be giving people access to see the whole replay from there. There's no, well, I guess it wouldn't be that hard to just not have them be able to see the whole game. They could only see the clip. I'll write it down as a consideration just so we've thought about it, but I don't think that it's going to really matter. If the game was a private game with save analytics disabled, could be possible to not let players view the full replay. Not critical, just something to consider. Yeah, I can't either, but it more for consistency, if anything, if we want. I mean, we'll talk about it. We'll see what we end up with. It's not a huge sticking point for me either way. And it also could be that we don't do it initially, and then maybe a reason does come along. Knowing that we could do it in the future is also nice to have in our back pocket as well. So I think that's pretty reasonable there. Anybody who's been silently watching here, there are about 10 of you who are not Grant. Anybody have any questions about what's going on here? I think we're going to call it because we're well past 90 minutes now, but I'm pretty happy with how this shook out. So if not, reminder, we are hoping to have a testing session tonight. So if you are around, I'll be pinging everybody in the next half hour, probably with the time that we're going to start at. You had a weird phone call. Half listening. Was it my roommate? No. So testing session tonight, release hopefully next week. If not, then the week after, I promise. And they'll tell me offline. Excellent. So that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Fridays. Have a good weekend. And I'll see you all later.